Ciao a tutti, it's Orion, and today we are finally going to tackle something that I have been dreading for a while. It's been requested for a while, but I've never really been that confident in my ability to do it. But this is probably better than nothing. Like, I know more than someone just coming into the format, so this will definitely be useful to a new player of the format. So this is a side deck card tier list. I don't think I will have an F tier, because if a card was an F tier, I wouldn't have included it here. Yeah, before we get into it, subscribe and join the Discords. So, we're going to start off with, where is it? Maxi and DD Crow. These are the S tiers. I don't think anything else is gonna get in here, because these cards are far above and beyond anything else in the format in terms of side cards, to the point where like these are totally mainable. We're talking about the cards as in side cards. So for example, like the hands, I will not be rating them in terms of how good they are in the main deck, just in the side deck. For decks that would side them. But like yeah, Maxi has gone, he is so good that it's gone from a side deck staple to a main deck staple pretty much. And DD Crow honestly could go that route too, because like worst case scenario, it's versus Girgias, where it's like not completely dead because you still have Girgiano to hit. So like yeah, it's life versus pretty much every matchup besides spellbooks. And even spellbooks, you still have Spellbook of Fate, and in the early game, you can also disable Tower if they only have one spellcaster in the graveyard. So it's not like 100% dead, at least to main deck. But in the side deck, basically, Maxi, you set it in versus all kinds of combo decks, pretty much. DD Crow, you set it in versus Cat. It's one of the best sidings versus Cat. It's amazing versus Mythic Rulers, Infernities, Silvers, I am not sure. But pretty much all kinds of, combo decks. And Artifact too. And yeah, I'm sure Bujins, I think also. It's a pretty good setting versus Bujins too. And yeah, and also it's very, very strong versus Madolches and also Maxis too, because Hoodcake banishes for effect, which sucks because it targets. So if you chain in response and banish the target, Hoodcake fizzles. So yeah. Overall, both of these are must play. Maxi, if you don't mean it, you must side the remainder. And DD Crow, you are pretty crazy if you side any less than 3. You need to have a damn good reason to side 2. And that damn good reason will be pretty much just playing its main competition, at least in the hand trap slot, which would be Cycle Reader and Schoolmaster. We're going with hand traps first. Let's get the other hand traps here. Effect Veiler and where is it? Flying Sea. There we go. So Schoolmaster is kind of an interesting side grade, mostly downgrade to DD Crow. What does it have that DD Crow doesn't have? It's a level 4, so it's good with Soul Charge. It's dark, so it's good with Allure, but that doesn't really matter. More importantly, because of some dumb fuck rulings that I will never, no one will ever be able to understand why they are, but we just play with them because those were the rulings. Schoolmaster can trigger in damage step, so it can counter Fire Hand and Abyss Flind, which DD Crow cannot do. Oh right, forgot about DD Crow, because if you play with North American rulings, it's a great counter to Mermails too, because Undyne and Pike send cards for cost. well, all of them sent for cost. So DD Crow you can chain to the Atlantean, getting sent to the graveyard, and it will not resolve. And Schoolmaster also does the same thing too. But yeah, it also stops Lind. What it doesn't do, well, it obviously doesn't vanish, so it's a lot worse versus artifacts. It's a lot worse versus mythic rulers. Yeah, that's those are pretty important. It's also a lot worse versus Infinity. Pretty much all of decks that you would want DD Crow versus Schoolmaster would be better, but Schoolmaster has definitely a niche, especially in Evil Swarms. I feel like that is a deck where it's very strong because that deck struggles a lot with the hands. It's also solid in like Fire Fist for the same reason. So yeah, Schoolmaster has a niche in the format, but is mainly outclassed by DD Crow, but still has a solid niche. Cycle Reader, I will also put in B tier, probably above Schoolmaster. It's basically mostly better DD Crow versus Cat, and it's searchable with Gear Gigant X. And it's also pretty strong versus Lights for Rulers if that is ever a concern, or Bujins if that is also ever a concern. But besides that, it cannot really hit Mythic Rulers and Infernities, which is one of the main draws of DD Crow. So unlike Schoolmaster, I would never consider cutting DD Crows for Cycle Readers because DD Crow it's too many things. But yeah, Cycle Reader definitely has its place in the meta, especially in Gear decks because it's searchable of Gigant. Then we have Flying Sea. Honestly, like it's obviously very strong versus Infinity as long as they don't draw Forbidden Chalice. Though if you time it well, it can be good versus that even if they draw Chalice because like you have to set Chalice at some point and they cannot use the effect. So if you delay it, you can make sure it doesn't get Chalice, but obviously you get less value without Chalice. And yeah, besides that, it's solid in like versus like Mythic Rulers, I guess. No, never mind. It's versus like very heavy XYZ decks, especially if they are pretty combo. Madolce probably it's a good siding for that. Stellars, you know, those kinds of decks. It's usable versus Girgias, but you probably have much better cards in the main deck already. So like it's not really worth siding in usually. Unless for some reason you have a lot of dead cards versus Girgiga, which I don't know what to say. That's a yikes. Finally we have Veiler. Veiler is bad. Don't play Veiler. Like the only thing you can really use Veiler for is like if you don't want to play Flying Sea because you fear Chalice, but you still want something for Infinities, then you play Veiler. And also if you fear Sylvans, I guess for some reason, because you can chain it to the normal summon of Longfire Blossom, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, besides that, like Veiler, that's a yikes from me. It's not a format for Veiler. This it's not as bad as it was like in 2016, but you know, if you played 2016, you'll remember that Veiler wasn't always the greatest. At least, like I'm talking about the Cosmo Monarch format. Yeah, moving on. We have Fire Hand and Ice Hand. These are probably like, yeah, maybe actually. Yeah, I'll put this in A tier for now. The hands are very strong versus Ophion. And that's pretty much why anyone would side them. Now, obviously, they have other strong points. They are very, very strong versus Cat. But, like, it's not the first thing you will side in versus Cat. But yeah, generally, if you side the hands, it's if your deck sucks versus Ophion. In that role, yeah, it's probably a B. Yeah, like it's good, but you know, it takes a lot of side deck slots. Doesn't necessarily synergize with the rest of your deck. Kind of depends on that front. And yeah. Then we have I think, what is it? Kaiku. It's like a cute DD Crow side grade, downgrade mainly in spellbooks, I guess. It's mainly for mythic rulers in spellbooks. Like that's so niche. So whatever. I wouldn't play. I would never cut DD Crows for Kaikus. I will just play Kaikus over them if you want to. Then I think it's the last monster. We have Majestys Fin. Like honestly, I feel like this card is kind of underrated. I'm gonna put it in C tier because like nobody sides it, but like versus non-trap decks, it's generally pretty much just GG, unless they like soul charge into big beaters. So yeah, like the problem with Majesty's Fin is that like it's super weak to back rows, but if you're facing a deck that doesn't play many back rows, it's totally good. The only issue is that like even decks without a lot of back rows usually play breakthrough skill, so you kind of have to play it versus like stuff like Sylvans, which actually doesn't play any back rows. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, we're going into the spells. First off, we have Dark Hole, which is a solid A tier. You know, good versus combo decks, good versus Girgias. Very, very solid. If you're not maining it and you're playing control deck, I would definitely recommend siding it. And even if you are not playing a control deck, if you're playing, I will definitely side it if you're playing a mid-range deck. Well, depends on which deck it is, whether you main it or side it, but I will definitely do either one of these. But yeah, it's a very strong card. Then we have, what is it? Mind Control. Also very strong card. It's a bit more niche. It's mainly used in rank 4 decks versus Girgias, because like you can normal summon and steal their Girgi armor, and you get rank 4, so that's very, very good. In a similar vein, we have Nobleman of Crossout, which is also very, very strong because of Girgias. You know, obviously they can play around it, but they have to draw Arsenal for that, so most of the time it's live. And yeah, Mind Control obviously has other targets depending on what you are playing. Like you could steal an artifact if you're playing an artifact deck, but yeah, the main use for Mind Control is Girgi armor. It's the strongest use, at least. Then we have well, let's go with Mystical Space Typhoon. Yeah, if you want back row hate and you want it quickly, MST is pretty good. Kinda depends on the matchup, obviously. I would consider Wiretap overall better in the format, but MST is a lot better if you're feeling like skill drain. Let's go over all the back row hate cards, shall we? Whatever. You know, Tap it's a lot slower than MST, but MST takes a lot more skill to use, basically. But yeah, depends on the matchup and kind of depends on what you are main decking. Because I will, if you're main decking one, I would probably side the other between MST and Wiretap in most decks. Obviously, I wouldn't side Wiretap in control deck in combo decks. That's what cards like Transplant and Royal Decree are for. Transplant is also a very strong card. Basically, Heavy Storm for the turn, but it's a normal trap. It's prone to getting wiretapped, and if you are going to get boned by Solemn Warning, I would recommend just using it first. Yeah, it's also a lot better versus Skill Drain than Wiretap. At least if you draw it later on. You do only get one turn without Skill Drain, but if you can get rid of it, it's very, very strong. If you can make like Exit on night, it will be very good. Then we have Imperial Order, or Royal Decree, sorry. Royal Decree, the issue with it is that like a lot of back row decks play also a lot of back row hate. So it's like very strong versus Girgia because they don't have that much, but versus Cat, it's a tall order to keep up. Honestly, I will just not bother with that. Then we have Malevolent Catastrophe. You know, pretty nice in especially Mermails. Speaking of Mermails, I'll just get these over with. We have also like Dust Tornado and Imperial Iron Wall. These are pretty much like the stuff you side in versus Girgias, because Girgias and some other decks do like to side in Macrocosmos, Soul Drain, and Fissure in versus Mermails, especially. And these cards are your additional MSTs to get rid of that. And I feel like Malevolent Catastrophe is the strongest of them all, but especially in Mermails because it has synergy with Sphere, kinda. But yeah, Malevolent Catastrophe is also a bit easier to play around, which is why Dust Tornado also definitely has an issue. If you don't want to rely on the opponent attacking you, Dust Tornado is good too. And then we also have Imperial Iron Wall, which is like, it doesn't stop Soul Drain. Yeah, it's good if they have both Diffusor and Macrocosmos, but besides that, like, you're not hitting the air plays, you're just hitting their side-ins for you. If you don't have those settings, it's dead. So I don't really see the point in Imperial Iron Wall, frankly. Yeah. Like, yeah, oh my god, you're stopping the banish of Bottomless. Wow. Whatever. Especially since you're not playing this in Mythic Rulers, where Bottomless is deadly, because this card is also deadly versus Mythic Rulers. I guess that's also a point in Imperial Order, right? Iron Wall's favor. It's very strong versus Dragon Rulers. They kinda rely on drawing Soul Charge. I guess that kinda bumps it up. Yeah, going into the anti-Mythic Ruler tech tangent, we also have DNA Transplant and where is it? Zombie World? Pretty much these cards completely fuck. Oh no, never mind. DNA Transplant doesn't fuck up over Mythic Rulers. Never mind. Okay, DNA Transplant is good versus spellbooks. It's very good versus spellbooks. As long as it doesn't get fated on activation, because then it's dead. But besides that, you kinda screw them over from using a lot of stuff. Actually, no. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure that Wisdom negates it. Okay, we have our first F tier. I might be forgetting something, but yeah, that doesn't seem good. Zombie World is a complete counter to Mythic Rulers. They cannot do anything versus Zombies World, pretty much, besides Soul Charge. Besides that, it's also very strong versus Bujins, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's kind of narrowing scope. It's also like fine versus spellbooks because like it turns off their tower and fate for one turn, which like I know it doesn't sound that good and it's not that good, but versus spellbooks you often have a lot of main deck cards that are dead versus the deck, so it's better than those cards. With those cards versus spellbooks, so it's fine. Let's get into some other floodgates. We have Mansion of Fissure. Where is it? Where is Macrocosmos? There's Soul Drain. And there's Macrocosmos. These are the anti-Mermail squad / anti-Infernity going first / anti-Mythic Ruler kinda. Fissure and Macro are not too reliable versus Mythic Ruler, but yeah, these cards are for graveyard hate that isn't artifacts. Well, I wouldn't really consider sending these in versus artifacts personally. But yeah, few decks can play them because they hit a lot of decks pretty much. Yeah, then we have Necro Valley. What is it? Doesn't really do a whole lot. This errata doesn't really do anything in this errata, frankly. Yeah, it's pretty much just outclassed. And then we have Rivalry of the Warlords, which is like kind of fine versus Cat, kind of fine versus. It's okay versus Mermail. It has its matchups, I guess. It's good versus Madolce. I will give it that. It's good versus Madolce. But for the most part, it's not that strong. Then we have, let's see, another Floodgate. Light Imprisoning Mirror. If you're not playing a light deck, I would consider playing Light Imprisoning Mirror because it's the only Floodgate that's strong versus Cat. Now, obviously, they are gonna pop it eventually, but it does stall their artifacts for quite a bit. That's pretty good. And besides that, it's also decent versus Light Swans, I guess. If you are afraid of Light Swan Ruler for some reason. Then we have Vanity's Emptiness. Am I giving out too many A's? I'm giving out too many A's. Anyways. Vanity's Emptiness, it's like, you know, you play it in combo decks and you can also play it in like some mid-range decks, some rank 4 decks, if you want to. And it's good going versus artifacts. It's generally good going first, pretty much. So yeah, it's a good going first card, pretty much for decks that can put up some field presence turn 1. Okay, let's go back into spells. Let's see. Forbidden Choice. This is kind of biased because I think it's a very, very nice card. Okay, it's a bit here. Because pretty much it's kind of very deck dependent, but pretty much if your deck can play enough during your first turn to be able to do something to an opponent's artifact moral attack, if you chalice it, then it's good. But it kind of has to be in between like artifact trap trick stacks. They don't really care about the opponent's artifact because at the worst they're gonna hit moral attack. So is Girgia. Dragon Ruler decks don't really care enough about moral attack to set in Chalice because they have a lot of field presence and they can just beat over the moral attack. Decks like Constellars, though, decks like Bujins, those decks, a moral attack can just shut down their turn 1 in which they would have otherwise did some plays, like normal summon Yamato or summon Pleiades. You know, I didn't say they were very interesting plays, I just said they were plays. And Chalice lets them do those plays going second versus artifacts, so that's very very nice for those decks. Then we have Lance, which it's a solid main deck card, but I wouldn't really consider siding it over other forms of back row hate. You know, if you want to run it, just main deck it, pretty much. Then we have Prohibition. I don't know why you would play this. I don't even remember why I put this in. I made this list like 3 or 4 months ago, honestly. Maybe stops Maxi? I don't know. They can just chain Maxi. Whatever. Soul Release, I also don't really know why you would play this over pretty much all the other forms of Graveyard Hate, but you could. And Graveyard Hate is strong in the format, so like, I guess you could play this. Spiritualism is good versus Infernity if you are playing with the ruling that it doesn't target, because there is some debate about that. Counting that it doesn't target, it's a B tier card because it's very solid versus Infernity. If you don't, it's pointless. So, yeah, pretty much. Decks. Sorry, it's 11 p.m. Anyways, any other spells? System down. System down. It's like yes, you can set it versus Girgias, but there's better ways to attack the deck than System down. Obviously, we have Nobleman of Crossout and Mind Control, but we also have a couple of other cards that we will get into later. Still, you can set it technically in versus the deck. And the last spell here is XYZ Anchor. XYZ Anchor is a very nice card versus Evil Swarms for decks that care about Evil Swarms, pretty much. Though honestly, I don't see why Evil Swarms aren't just playing a couple of rank 3s, since besides Ophion, Exiton, and 1-1, it's not like Evil Swarms are known for making a lot of the extra deck monsters. They just make those 3 pretty much, so yeah. Going into the traps, we have starting off with the Trapos. Acid Trapple and Deep Dark Trapple, you know, these are cards you just play if you play main deck 3 copies of Myrmeleo. Acid Trapple is to let Myrmeleo get over armor. It's not that good because, like, you still flip the armor, so they get still the search, but at least you deny them the field presence, which is better than nothing. And then we have Deep Dark Trapple, which is good versus stuff like Mythic Rulers and other Sylvans, you know, high level decks. Now we have additional copies of Trap Tricks Triple Nightmare if you play Myrmeleo. It's like the card is very nice versus Girgias, but it's not as good if you search it out. So there's no. It's not too strong, but still it's better than Bottomless in my opinion versus Girgia to have 2 Trap Tricks Triple Nightmare. Then we have Blackhorn. Blackhorn is a very very strong card versus Girgias, and also good versus other XYZ decks like I don't know, Madolche, Constellars, Evil Swarms, you know, that stuff. But yeah, it's the single best counter to Girgian decks because it negates the summon, so it doesn't hit the field, so it doesn't trigger the when Girgigantex leaves the field effect, which lets it float into Girgiano, which is really annoying. So yeah, very strong card. Next we have the Bank, which is it's like Schoolmaster, but it's a trap, but it also banishes like DD Crow, so like it's slower Meister, but with the strengths of DD Crow. It's a good card. Then we have Deep Prison. I don't really see the point in side decking this, frankly. I don't. Like, yes, you banish the more attack. Wow, they already got the pop off. So does it really matter? No. Just like Triple Nightmare would have been better, for example, like or breakthrough skill. I don't have breakthrough skill here because like just fucking main deck breakthrough skill. Like come on, yeah. Deep reason I don't really see a point in. The only very good thing about it is like the hands. Even then, there's better counters. I'm also cutting memory of an adversary here. I just couldn't be bothered to crop out an image for it since there was no artwork straight up of it. Same goes with Full House. Here we have Straight Flush. Both are shit. No, don't care. Unless you're playing a heavy artifact deck like Cyber Dragon Artifact, just don't play these cards. Then we have Mind Crush. It's like fine, I guess. I wouldn't bother with it. Then we have Needle Stealing. Solid cards in card in Guerrilla. Madolches too, I guess. Worms, you know, those decks set good versus combo decks. Then to round off the list, we have Transmigration Prophecy, which for some reason is limited. I don't know why, but you know, it's still a solid side deck card. It's you know, a lot slower than DD Crow, but it can be used for your Orcads to shuffle them back, and it targets too. So, like, yeah, it definitely has an issue in the format. So yeah, that was the list. I hope it was helpful. Again, subscribe and join the Discord. Leave a like, comment, ring the bell, all that good shit, and goodbye.